Hi everybody, welcome back to Bustling Home. Today I'd like to talk about a topic that I think is very important and often neglected. Self-care for home managers. Self-care is the most important and quite often the most neglected element of home management. If the home manager is burned out, exhausted, and unhealthy, how are they going to take care of the family and the home? They'll be left with no energy to do anything for anyone else. Now, what is self-care? In the popular media, it seems like self-care should be things like bath bombs and mimosas, or going out with your girlfriends, and that can be part of it for some people if that's what they need to feel like a whole person. For me, those don't matter nearly as much. For me, it's about the basic things like getting enough sleep, and eating enough food, and good food at that, not just whatever I can scrape together from the leftovers in the fridge. Basic needs vary a bit for everyone. Some people might need breakfast first thing in the morning. Some might want to go and have a workout and then have a heavier breakfast after their workout. It all depends on what your priorities are and what fits your lifestyle. Some women feel haggard if they don't do their hair and their makeup every morning, while some, more like me, are happy with getting out of pajamas, putting on leggings and a t-shirt. Your first task as home manager is to define what self-care looks like for you as an individual. Let me tell you what self-care looks like for me to give you somewhere to start in deciding what self-care might consist of for you. Perhaps the most important part of self-care for me is exercise. If I don't get exercise, I'm crabby, I have no patience, and I just physically don't feel good. On top of all of that, no exercise increases my risk of injury picking up the kids or doing work around the homestead. As the home manager, I can't afford to be injured. I don't have a backup person to change diapers all day. I don't have anyone else who can go out and work in the garden for a couple of hours in the afternoon because Jeff has this thing called a job and they expect him to be there all day, not run off and take care of the garden every day. By exercising 2 to 3 times a week, I take care of my physical health, my mental health, and my emotional health all in one shot. Find some sort of exercise that works for you and just get out and move your body a little bit. I promise that as long as you're not pregnant or have some other health issue, you'll feel better for it. Perhaps rivaling in importance to exercise is sleep. And I am terrible at getting enough sleep, like really bad. Just yesterday, Jeff told me for the kids' nap time I should go and relax. Wait. Relax? I don't understand. What does that mean? So, I went and I laid down, and I promptly fell asleep for over 2 hours. Obviously, I was more tired than I realized. And between filming and writing and taking care of the house and pulling produce in from the garden, taking care of the kids, trying to homeschool, apparently I've been missing more sleep than I thought. Then this week I had a string of migraines, which also drains my energy. I didn't account for that. So Jeff realizes before I do when I am too low on sleep. When I'm missing too much sleep, I get impatient and I get crabby. And I get tired, obviously. That doesn't go well for anyone. And anything I try to do doesn't work as well. And it's not nearly as efficient. So if I can just get my butt into bed at night and get enough sleep, everything goes more smoothly. And let me make a note here that I am certainly not perfect with any of this. As I said, I am terrible with getting enough sleep. If I could discipline myself well enough to get in bed around 10 or 10:30 and then get up in the morning again around 6 a.m., I'd have time to get my workout in before the kids even get up. And then I would have time to get ready for the kids to get up, I would have their breakfast ready. I'd have the homeschool stuff ready. I might even have some time to do a little work for myself. That hasn't happened yet. It is a goal I aspire to. I find that nutrition is also very important to making sure that my mind and my body function well on a daily basis. For my lunches, I could grab the kids' leftovers and make sure that we don't waste any food. So I'll have a scrap of peanut butter and jelly along with a handful of nuts and maybe a piece of cheese to add a little protein and part of a banana that some kid decided not to eat. Now that's sort of a balanced meal, but not for my lifestyle. Because I do weightlifting, I need more protein. I need a different balance than my kids do. So I need to have meals planned out that are easy for me to grab and don't interrupt my daily flow. For breakfast, I make a shake with Greek yogurt. Then I add either peanut butter or cream as a fat source and add maybe cocoa and a little sweetener for some flavor if I want to have peanut butter chocolate. Or I will add cinnamon and maybe nutmeg if I want to have something more along the lines of a pumpkin spice shake. And I really love those shakes in the morning. For lunch, quite often I will have another shake. But the protein source is different. I don't have another yogurt shake. Jeff makes a really great shake mix from toasted oat flour, ground up almonds, or walnuts, or whatever other kind of nut you happen to have on hand. We put it in the food processor and grind it up very finely. Ground up dried fruit sometimes, egg white powder, and milk powder. And this is also a shake that is a complete meal, balanced between fat, proteins, and carbs. And in another video, I'll share with you how we balance our nutrition between the 3 major macronutrients. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you about that. If I rely on having a warm lunch with solid food every day, I probably wouldn't eat until 3 p.m. most days. So it's really important for me to have a very easy lunch that I can take with me while I'm homeschooling the kids. Another priority for my own self-care is actually spending time with Jeff. Jeff is known among many people as a calming influence, and he certainly provides that for me too. If I'm having a hard time, Jeff provides an anchor and sometimes the 5 minutes of solitude that I need from screaming kids. Time with him is important to taking care of myself as a person, a mother, and a wife, and I hope that I can provide the same to him. If you don't prioritize your marriage, nobody else will. And if you don't provide your children with a good example of what marriage should look like, what you want their marriage to look like, who else is going to do it? You are the primary example of a relationship in their life. Make it a good one. This next element of self-care might not apply quite as widely as the other ones. Since I intended to have a professional life, I need to have some goals for myself outside of motherhood and outside of being a wife and outside of being a home manager. Part of that is making these videos and writing blog posts. I also have other projects sitting on the back burner, like making seasonal pillow covers for our family room, or repainting the old dining room in the house so that we can use it as a reading lounge. Now, I haven't been able to work on those in a while because the dining room is currently housing our dining room chairs from the main dining room to keep Misha and Gabe from climbing on them and climbing on the dining table. And I haven't worked on the pillow covers because I've been working mostly with the garden. But I have this small selection of little projects that are for me. And I try to make sure that I get at least a little bit of time, a couple of times a week, to work on these projects that give me some fulfillment and give me some sort of more concrete accomplishment. Because let's face it, some days with kids, all you can do is keep them from going to the emergency room. And averting disaster does not seem like an accomplishment. It seems more like survival, for lack of a better word. And I would like to do more than just survive. The last element on my list of self-care is to look at home management and homeschooling and homesteading as a profession. If you were working outside the home, you would have time for professional development. You'd have time to set goals. You'd have time to evaluate what's working and what isn't, and time to experiment and find a better way to do things. Home management, homeschooling, and homesteading should be no different. In this case, professional development might mean watching YouTube videos and finding tips from other families that are somewhat similar to yours that you can apply to your own life. You might not take what they do wholesale and use it. For example, a laundry routine might not quite work for you, but maybe some little tweak that they use will help you. Or maybe it's a book. One of the books that I particularly favor for looking at motherhood as a profession is called Professionalizing Motherhood. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. If you are having a hard time finding value in your life as a mother and a homemaker or home manager, I highly recommend getting a copy of this book and reading it cover to cover. It really helped me adjust my mindset when I first became a mother. At some point, I'd like to do an entire video series on this book and some of the things it talks about. I found it that valuable. Now, when I say self-evaluation, I don't mean that you are just critical of yourself. I mean that you look at your day, take note of the things that didn't work quite as well as you would like, and note that. Maybe you can make some adjustments. But also, find the things that did work well. Take note of the little joys. Just this week, I got to hear my little guys, Misha and Gabe, sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And it is the most adorable thing ever to hear them sing that in their little toddler voices. The words aren't quite clear, of course, because they're not even 2 years old. But it was certainly recognizable, and I know that they learned that being here at home. And there's a certain amount of gratification knowing that you taught your kids these things. Now, kids can turn that around too, and they are the best mirror for better or for worse. They will show you the best of your behavior and the worst of your behavior because they will mimic it all. It can be very humbling staying home with your kids all day. Anyhow, back to treating home management and homeschooling and homesteading as your profession. You can borrow some ideas from the corporate world like SMART goals. These are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Making sure that you include these 5 elements in your goals just makes sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure, and you have a way to measure your success. Because what's the point of having a goal if you can never tell if you succeeded? As a home manager, you keep track of a lot of things. You have lists, you have routines, you have habits that you've implemented to keep up with everything. I challenge you to add self-care to this at the top of the list. Because if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to do any of this to your best ability. Treat it like any other home management task that you keep adjusting it until it works for you. Now, if you're pregnant or you have a newborn, all bets might be off. You might just have to fight through it until it gets a little bit easier. Sorry to say it. Pregnancy and newborns are a special kind of challenge. I promise you that someday you will sleep more than 2 hours at a time again. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to hear more about any of these elements? And what do you think is most important to your self-care? Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.